Yo, what's up, Steve?
What's up, man?
Not much.
How goes it?
And it's going. It's been
Yeah.
an interesting morning, so
Likewise, man. Rain.
kind of woke up feeling nauseous, and you know how you feel like you can't. I didn't even try to have breakfast. I haven't even had coffee because I'm afraid that's going to trigger it even more. So just water for me today until at least I get done with the stream, because that way if I gotta book it, I'm not leaving midstream.
Do you have a varied pantry? Like, how's your pantry? You just have stuff on hand,
Yeah.
like ginger root, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, we got plenty. My wife drinks ginger root tea all the time.
Okay, yeah, that's all you need. And then cúrcuma también. ¿Tú sabes lo que?
The only problem with the turmeric, it's powder.
You can do powder. Just do like a quarter of a teaspoon because it is strong.
Yeah, I know.
Raw kind.
Yep.
But dude, those three things, I drink them every day.
Let's see. Let's get some of these hellos out of the way. Let's see. We have Glitch Aquatics Nicole. She was the very first one this morning.
What's up?
And then we have Crown Tail Half Moon. And of course, we have Ralphie Joe.
What up, Ralphie Joe?
Lady Rorschach.
Lady Ro.
Let's see who else.
Watts up in here, Jerome.
Yeah, Jerome, Watts are coming on in now.
All right. I see the people filing in the building slowly.
Yep.
We got a pretty good one today.
Well, it's I guess it could be a little contentious depending on how you look.
It's hell. That's why it's good, boy. Shit. We got a contentious one today.
Well, I know this is something that you and I have gone back and forth, and we kind of have varied opinions on it, but not too many, I guess. I think we fall more in line with each other's philosophy on it. But yeah, I mean, I noticed that on YouTube and all that other stuff, it can get pretty interesting. There's a lot of ideas and philosophies that kind of line up with, you do it this way because that's the only way it works. But I'm of the opinion that there's more than one way to do things, and I think my fish room is proof of that. Because I'm always, one of the things that I've always said is I use my fish room to tinker around and try different things out there. I guess just by nature I'm kind of inquisitive, and I like to, when I hear something new that comes out and that's related to the hobby, I'm not willing to discredit it immediately. I like to try it out and see if I can replicate the results that they're preaching that they get.
Right.
And in some cases, yeah, you do get them, and in some cases, it's a total fail.
See, the military come out of me, man. Only with social media, because shorts are more prevalent now, like the TikToks on the gram, reels and stuff. Little 30-second, 45-second clips.
Yeah.
And some stuff, it'll pull the Navy out of me immediately. I go right back to being an NCO, and I just be like, bullshit. Nuh-uh, not today. And I'm just like, And then I want to tinker, like, not to discredit it, but like, nah. And then I got to touch on it and try it. And I'm like, okay, I see. You see what I'm saying?
Well, but it's the opposite for me. I'm not gonna call BS on something immediately. I'm always the one to give the benefit of the doubt, even if it kind of, down deep inside, I know it's kind of hokey. Like an example of that would be that cube that they were selling to remove nitrates from your tanks.
Yeah, you just stick it in there, don't do nothing.
Yeah, I saw that and I said, okay, I'm not gonna say no, because there could be a remote possibility that it works, but down deep inside, I call BS on it.
Remote, like Diego Garcia remote.
Yeah.
In the middle of the Indian Ocean, don't nobody know where the hell it's at. Remote.
Yeah, but and then sure enough, you start seeing some of the other people that took it upon themselves to try it out and test it. And yeah, it's a gimmick. It's BS.
Yeah.
You're
a good dude, though, man. You're a good dude.
So I try to do that. Also, we had a couple more people come in. Jeff Kane, thank you for being here with us.
And Laura
Victoria, thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, Berto.
Hey, Garcia. We got Berto in the house.
Yeah. So, look, we already contentioning. We ain't even dug into it yet. Me and you already contentioning. Is that even a word? It's going to be a word today.
Does it matter? I mean, they create new words every day. So.
Right. What's up with that?
I don't know.
All right. Real quick for the people. This roll call. Generation X or stand up. So I'm sitting up here and I was going ham, knife hand and everything, right? Because mijo, él estaba preparando un Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Y tiraste eso en el microondas. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm making a pop. I was like, don't put it in the microwave. You put it in the toaster. Why in the hell would they call it a toaster pastry if you put it in the microwave? And then he was like, well, it says on the box, you can put it in the microwave. I was like, you damn millennial, stop reading the instructions. It says toaster pastry on the front of the box. Put it in
it gives you the option of either or, but you gotta know at a basic level that when the way it's gonna heat is different, so the texture
Pop-Tarts ultimately in the toaster.
Yeah, I mean that's
what. When I do eat Pop-Tarts, which is rare, it's a treat. Like they was on sale, so it was like for real, bro. 12 pack, $4.
Yeah,
straight up. Yeah, so I hit it. You know, it was a little twofer. When them gone, they gone. But it's nostalgia for me more than anything, because you're not supposed to eat that stuff. It's garbage. But moderation, you know, you put it in the toaster, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I did? I broke convention. I stepped away from convention. I put the motherfuckers in the air fryer, boy.
Yeah.
It was, you know what? It was the closest thing. Remember them old school toaster ovens at the port, like, you know, the one with the glass shit in the front. You gotta watch it or you burn the house.
Well, that's exactly what they are. They're convection.
Yeah, the toaster. Yes, like that was the closest I got to, because I want this some fat ass shit. When it's a frosted Pop-Tart, I want that to be like damn near caramelized, almost toasted. And then I want my edges just around the rim to be crispy. But then in the middle, I want it to, like, you know how it comes up concave as it gets hot? I want that to be tender and flaky, like a pie crust. Shit gotta be right.
That shit is never gonna get there, man.
Let's go dress it up.
I never had a Pop-Tart that said, wow, I gotta have it again.
I hadn't had one in a hot minute, bro. But I was like, bro, I might as well be on some fat ass shit for a little while.
Cheap. But anyways, getting back to the subject on hand. Looks like we had Robert come in here. MB Reef. Hey, MB Reef, thanks for joining us.
Here too.
So as the title of our stream suggested, we're going to be talking about substrates. And I guess before we even get into that, it's always a disclaimer that Steve and I like to use. But Steve calls it state your purpose. And I call it, what are you trying to achieve? Because that's really going to dictate what will give you the results you're looking for. Because it's not a one-size-fits-all. This hobby, that's what's great, is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody can do. The example that I always find myself going to, because it's just so bonkers, is the guy that I know from Spain that's got a tank full of discus. He's got an arowana. He has African cichlids in there. I mean, it's a hodgepodge of fish. Don't get me wrong, the tank looks beautiful, immaculate. But typically, if you were to tell somebody, hey, this is what I have in my tank, the first thing you're going to say, well, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. So that's why I'm saying it's not a one size fits all. I mean, I've been in this hobby long enough to see things work that would probably not work for 99% of us. But, that's the beauty of it. That, there's always that 1% that you can pull stuff off and have that unique case.
I think sometimes it's just non-conventional. You know what I'm saying? But that don't
Yeah,
mean it's not gonna work.
yeah, but there is always that, that cautionary is like, yeah, it's probably working for him, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to work.
Facts.
That's why I always tell people.
I say that
Stuff,
too.
the stuff that I share with you, it's stuff that's working for me,
Right.
and some of this stuff has not only worked for me, but it's worked for other people. But that doesn't necessarily automatically mean that you're going to have success with it. But nonetheless, if you're like me, that is always trying to try something to see what works better, um, then that's why I share that information. I take a lot of stuff from a lot of people, and the reason I also wanted to talk about substrates is because, like I was telling you earlier, it is very contentious to the point where I'm seeing grumpy old men all over again and live.
Don't you start. Come on, man.
And the reason I say that
Let's go.
is because I see these older gentlemen that are, and I'm obviously closer to that group than most of you, but their hobbyists have had a lot of experience and a lot of success. What I don't agree with is the fact that they tend to stand on that line and say that their method is the only method that really works.
Right.
And to me, you cross the line when you start bad mouthing somebody else's techniques, even though they're proven to have success.
Jorge, permiso. Puedes bajar el background.
It's loud?
Sí, por eso que sí.
All right.
Ahí lo sientes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Sí. Gracias.
Turn down a little. Okay. Thank you, Berto. And so, it's just where they start I'm glitching?
No, Glitch said it too. Giving her a thank you too. You got to spread the love. We love all you guys. We're just running the show here.
Thank you, Nicole. I just happened to look down and Berta was on there. That's why I thought he was the one calling it out. But anyways,
grumpy old man.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of funny but sad at the same time. Funny because, again, it kind of reminded me of Grumpy Old Men.
Mr. Whiskers.
And the shows and all that. But it's kind of sad because at the end of the day, we're all hobbyists. And I don't like it when people start trying to divide the hobbyists into factions. You're either on this side or you're on that side. Why do we have to pick a side? Why don't we just do what works for us?
I think that goes back to a lot of, we've discussed this in streams before, and it goes back to what you alluded to already in this episode, which is stating your purpose. But I think oftentimes we attach ourselves to things and we intrapersonalize it too much. Kind of like when you anthropomorphize, right? You treat an animal, you give it human-like qualities and characteristics, like how I say country talk. You treat a dog like a people. You treat it like a person. It's not a person, it's a dog. And they have souls and feelings and all that stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we are playing God with the glass box with some dirt and rocks and sticks and water in it. And methodology is methodology. I think it's like this, right? Grumpy old men, right? So you're going to sit up here and tell me I've been doing this since you were swimming around in your daddy's nutsack, blah, blah, blah. You're calling me a GEF and liar, basically. And so it ain't even about fish tanks no more. It's about postulation. It's about ego and pride.
And that's kind of the unfortunate side of it, because it kind of becomes that. Well, at least from my point of view as a hobbyist, I'm looking at that and I'm going, oh, man, now we've let egos get in the way.
Right, they over here fighting and shit. We can't even learn nothing now. You
let the egos get involved, and now any valuable information that could have been gained gets lost to this whole who has the biggest one kind of deal. Right. And and that's the only thing that I kind of look at that and kind of go, all right, whatever. But nonetheless, it doesn't mean that the information they're providing can't be valuable. And I've taken both of their systems and kind of tinkered with them and adjusted them to see if I can get it to coexist using the benefits of both of those systems. And what I'm getting at, for those, I know I'm kind of being cryptic, but there's this whole theory of using deep substrate to, okay, let me before we go to that on hold, going back to state your purpose, what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, let's do that.
Eh, if you're just interested in having an aquarium, there's no requirement that dictates that you have to have substrate. You can have bare bottom tank. You can have some very bare bottom tanks that I've seen where they get real creative, and you can still have a bare bottom planet tank, which is kind of crazy. But
I got one now. I got one now.
Yeah, you do that, and it's whether it's you put plants in flower pots and put them in your aquarium, or you get plants that are just rhizome plants that don't require a substrate, or you just put plants on the outside of your tank that with the roots in the water. Those are three ways.
I got a cool idea from Watts.
What's that?
And he's seen it. I had seen it before too, but I just didn't want to try because I thought it was ugly. I thought it was whack. But what the kids is doing these days is they taking the little flower pots and rocking the substrate in the flower pot and then putting that in the bare bottom tank like that.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, like I got that. Watts was doing that. And I was like,
the very first, I actually saw a content creator do that, and I thought, that's pretty creative. But it does. I know that he wasn't the first one,
right?
But I saw it on his channel, and I was like, oh,
they've been doing that.
Yeah, and who knows how long this has been going on? But I mean, those are
90s.
What I'm getting at is that there's, again, more than one way to be able to do this successfully. And so, yeah, you can have a bare bottom tank, no substrate, and still pull off a planet tank. It's just how ingenious you become about it and how you incorporate these plants that'll grant you that success. But
we're going to get into why that is possible towards the middle because let's go in depth on that in a little bit. I don't know, George kicked himself out. So while he's doing that, talking about why, and I want to get into that, how different plants feed in different zones in the water column. And we're not going to go down that road right now. Letting George go ahead and get the wheel back.
Yeah, no. So, again, what is it that you're trying to accomplish?
State your purpose.
State your purpose. And there's always going to be a way to be able to achieve that. It's just a matter of how you want to do it. Now, if you want to do a planet tank, per se, the tradition, well, I wouldn't say it's traditional, but you want to use substrate. When you get into that aspect, then there's a whole variation of different substrates that you can still pull off planet tanks with. And that's where I say there's a lot of contention, because there's people that get on the camp that they say the only way you're going to be able to grow plants is if you use enriched substrates.
Or dirt.
Well, more than anything else, what I'm getting at is the brands, the manufactured stuff that they try to push on you.
Gotcha.
That's the only way you're going to be able to achieve any success when it comes to doing a planet tank. And I'm always the first one to raise my hand and go, hey, that's not 100% true, because my room is full of examples where you don't need to buy those high-end substrates to be able to grow plants.
Right.
You can grow plants with just gravel. Yeah. Granted, you're not going to be able to grow those high-end plants without, doing something to that gravel. But I do have basic, and what I consider basic are like your Vallisneria, your Rotella, but I was God damn, I'm drawing a blank. Really? Well, Rotella, there's guppy grass that you can either float.
You got Luigia or Bacopa.
Hornwort. Yeah, those are those kind of plants that you can either float or put in your substrate. Very basic plants, but they'll grow there. With the Val though, I've found that I can get that to grow in totally inert substrate, and it's not going to take off very quickly at first. But as your bio load increases,
There you go.
as the bio load increases from, and I'm not necessarily talking about adding a ton of fish to your tank, but I'm talking about as that waste accumulates in the bottom
Right.
of your substrate, that in itself starts becoming the nutrients that are required to really set off your plants and start growing. The problem that we have as hobbyists in general is that we lack the number one thing that this hobby requires, which is patience. Uh, and it gets perpetuated. I mean, it gets uh, fucking having trouble with words today. Uh, it there's social media doesn't help us in
Ah,
that
you see,
aspect.
perpetuate is the word you were
Yeah,
looking for.
yeah. I just couldn't.
I
Uh,
got you, G. Y'all
yeah,
getting off a low sleep because he a beast. He be working, so we got this though.
well,
We
it doesn't
dedicated.
help that I'm kind of feeling a little. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, he's sick too over the season.
Uh, but anyways, what I was trying to get at, it doesn't help that as a society we're getting more and more into the now
Right, this instant
kind of
gratification.
lifestyle. Everything is it's got to be in 30 seconds increment
Right.
when you're giving out information, whatever it is you're doing. So that really goes against everything that you need to have to be able to be a successful hobbyist. Because one of the things that you're going to learn is that everything takes time in this hobby. If you want to be successful, if you want to have, uh, be able to, whether it's to reproduce or to grow plants or to even cycle a tank, it takes time. It's not something you're going to have. Is there's not that they don't make that wonder ingredient that you just add it and bam, there you go. I know that some people will say, "Oh, well, I know so and so that he got a new pair of fish and they started breeding." Yeah, but I guarantee you, that was not a tank that was set up from zero. He's probably some of the hobbyists that's got some established tanks, and yeah, that could happen very easily. But
Hmm.
that's a whole other thing about when you start breeding. But getting back to the whole substrate, um, and slowly over the time with me trying out, number one, here's the reality of this: this hobby can get real expensive real quick,
Hmm.
and when you start getting more than one tank, it becomes very difficult to try to justify why you're going to spend $20 on a bag of substrate that probably won't even cover the bottom of your tank. Um, so you start finding other ways. At least in my case, I started looking for other ways to be able to achieve, excuse me, some of those things without breaking the bank. Um, and it's not, and this is way before all this you see behind me. This
Hmm.
is what I had a 55 gallon and a 20 gallon, and just when I first looked at it, the sticker shock when I went to the pet store and I looked at what regular inert substrate looked at, and I go and look at the enriched soil, and it's like twice as much for the same size bag. So I was like, nah, I'm sticking to the inert stuff and I'll figure it out because again, there's ways around it that you can achieve some of these goals. You can supplement your substrate to be able to have success, especially with some of the higher demand plants. But
Right.
so before we get too deep in the woods, what I wanted to say is there is an infinite amount of substrates that you can use to be able to achieve that. And again, the substrate that you want to use is going to be also in direct correlation as to what you're trying to accomplish. Again, state your purpose. Do you want to have a plant with substrate because you just want to grow some basic plants to give hiding areas for fry that you're breeding? That's fine. Are you trying to create a manicured aquascape for a competition? Well, that's going to be a little bit different. The route you're going to want to go. Uh, so that's what I was trying to say. Um, do you have anything to add to that, Steve? Because I know
Yeah.
we've this is something that we've talked a lot about.
Well, so before we even get into it, let's ask the question: what is substrate? Okay, and I already pulled up the biological definition of substrate, and we're gonna go over it together.
Put it up.
Okay, so you see it?
Yeah.
So it says in biology, a substrate can be the surface on which an organism, e.g., example given plant, fungus, or animal, lives, or the substance on which an enzyme can act. In geology, a substrate is a rock or sediment surface where chemical and biological processes occur. Okay, so close that. So with that right there, me knowing that and taking away my implicit biases, because we all have them, information biases. Substrate automatically to me means foundation. It is the foundation. It is the keystone, if you will, for the building blocks of whatever system you're trying to accomplish or replicate. So, like what you were saying, talking about gravel, then the cost when you got the sticker shock, when you looked at prepared aqua soil versus inert, probably quartz, regular quartz gravel, and the price difference. And it goes back to education. What is substrate? How can you argue? It's because of the lack of understanding, because of the inability to be able to properly communicate. Because we're doing the same stuff, essentially. It's just the methodology, the technique, and then sometimes the materials themselves are different. But we're gauging for the same processes to replicate like what the definition said. So going back to stating your purpose, right? If I want to take an aquarium and get the inspiration from the internet, and I type in planted aquarium on Google Images or Google, all these beautiful planted tanks are going to pop up.
Yeah.
You know that. What people don't understand and or realize is the amount of gear
Yeah.
that went into it, but that still doesn't mitigate the patience and the time, because you still got to wait. And oh, by the way, the more you tweak with it, the more you add to it, the more auxiliary components you have on it, the more you got to stay on top of that tank. So when I started with plants, it was just kind of one of them things that plants need dirt to grow. And when I say dirt, I do not literally mean dirt in the sense of go outside, get a shovel, and get a scoop of dirt. When I say dirt, I mean a substrate in the sense of not inert. It has to be able to facilitate growth. That's the process that I'm looking for to replicate. So a nutrient rich substrate, also known as dirt. In fish tanks, of course, we don't want mud. So we got aqua soil now. We started using clay. We use the fish slow. We use other organic medias to make up our dirt. Then there's people like you and me. We just started using dirt. I I don't get behind brands. I'm not a company man. I'm not finna sit up here and say this works, this works, this works. Use this, pour this in there. If something worked and it's giving me success, I'll say, hey y'all, I'm using these. But I state my purpose. Hey, this is the tank I'm growing. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing incremental dosing. I'm doing EI method, whatever. The estimative index. I'm doing macro. I'm doing micro. This is the brand I'm using. Blah, blah, blah. That's it. Past that, I don't care. You can go to Walmart and get them same chemicals. And, you're going to kill some fish because you got to figure out the ratios. But after you get through killing stuff, you be all right. The science. So I figured it out. Like, hey, you don't got to spend money. It was the same thing. By the time I go to Home Depot and get all the ingredients to mix up my own custom mix, I'm still gonna be out of about $75 to $100 to fill up a good tank. You still gotta lug all that stuff. So really what it is people are paying for the convenience. And I got this wrote down here. Education, right? Education saves money. If you can look at a bag of aqua soil and know the general components in that aqua soil, you can source those ingredients and make your own. One of the ones that's been contentious is kitty litter, right? Kitty litter. And kitty litter is a clay, and depending on the brand, it's going to be what is it? Monte Moralite. It's going to be Fuller's Earth. It's going to have some DE, some diatomaceous earth in it somewhere. Absorbance. That clay works because it's porous. There it is right there. So, like, go back to like 8th grade biology and geology when you do the little chapter and you start talking about stratification and how stuff naturally settles and layers over time. And then think about where plants grow in nature in the wild, where you're going to see them. And that's what I started trying to like replicate, because once again, it's about transparency. I grow plants anyway, like horticulturally. And if I'm growing a flat of tomatoes, right? And I get my tomatoes, I'm going to start them indoors. I'm using an inert substrate because all I want to do is get them rooted out, get a nice root ball, get some nice leaf growth on it, at least 3 to 4 sets, so I can put them outside to harden and then transplant them. It's the same thing in a fish tank. Plants need something to hold the roots, i.e. a substrate. They need something to eat. They need light so they can do photosynthesis, which is facilitation of moving sugar. You can give them those 3 things, you Gucci. There's no reason that, like what Jorge said, I know that's right, Glitch, like what Jorge said, to where you can go to Walmart and look at the gravel, get the sticker shock, and then you got a bag this big. And what it is I'm not knocking that stuff. We're not knocking. What we're saying is it's the components. It's about stating your purpose, right? You have to understand, just because someone has it and they're successful, it does not mean it's set in stone. That's what you absolutely have to have. CO2, your bubble regulator, your bubble counter, your saturation meter, these $high lights on timers, your freaking, what's the filters that run? The big canister filters with all these different components and stuff with 17 different kinds of media inside it. Hey, that stuff's cool. But, oh, Lady Rowe, that's cool. I don't know. Depending on how deep we get into it, we might still be up here. But thank you for that. You don't need that stuff. And I think what you was alluding to when you was talking about the perpetuation of it is the transparency is not there. I will be the first one to say I'm not going to argue with nobody. I'm like Jorge. What works for me, and then it's just damn common sense. Like seriously.
And I think more of it is when people say that that's the only way you can achieve what they've done. That's the problem that I have is when they say, no, you have to use that to be able to get this.
Right. And that goes back to it right there. Thank you, G. Stating your purpose, right? So if I'm competing and I'm doing a competition, I know that for the results I need, there's stuff that I got to do. I got to have CO2. I got to have a bubble counter. I got to get my spec sheet. And see, this is what me and you was talking about the other day. So you got the cats over here on YouTube or whatever, these different media outlets, and they saying all this stuff and it's sparking all this contention and controversy within the hobby. Then you got hobbyists like myself, like Jorge, different calibers of hobbyists. We have specification sheets for a reason, y'all. And these specification sheets are to keep a standard, to basically encapsulate a methodology, to refine a methodology so that we can continue on a trajectory forward in real advancement in the hobby. So if I'm going to run a tank for a competition for a year and I am meticulously calculating it, I'm checking the parameters, my bubble counter goes bad, my saturation meter goes bad, for example. There's no excuse because I'm big dogging, right? I should be able to take my pH and check my pH versus the GH and the KH, do the math, and tell you what my CO2 saturation is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the difference of it, to where I can kind of see how people kind of get in the grumpy old madness because they put the work in. However, the part like how me and you say is there ain't no rules to this. I'm open-minded to it. And if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. And I have enough discernment to know what's worth entertaining to try and what's not. What we doing is trying to help people, give them the tools to discern between what's bullshit and what's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that you brought up a real good point coming into this whole topic of substrate, which is there ain't no one thing set in stone. There's no like one way to do it that's just boom, this is it. Low key, everybody got it from Diana Wallstatt. And she don't get enough recognition in the hobby. She's wrote several books. Her most famous book is The Ecology of the Planted Aquarium. I have it on PDF and I have it on what's that thing, Kindle?
Yeah.
It's a good book. And it goes more, and see, this is the crazy part, is people just read that one part about dirt in a tank and they took it and ran with it to where you got people in their backyard taking some dirt, putting it in a tank, and then pouring some Walmart gravel on it and shit, and then taking it in the house and putting the fish in it. And I mean, I would do that. That's hardcore. But if you don't even know what biofilm is, you don't need to be doing stuff like that because you're going to freak out when nature does what nature does. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that part right there, she talks about ecology, which is all of the moving parts of it, right? So she talks about allelopathy. Me and Watts was just talking about that. I like the war, man. I will throw a bunch of shit in the tank, give it the light it needs, stabilize the nutrient level, and then just sit back and see who whoops whose ass. It's war. It is so cool. It's just like on Avatar, bro. It's literal chemical warfare happening in your aquarium, and you can watch it happen. And the aeroids always win. Always. It's just the craziest. They're probably one of the most successful plant groups on Earth is aeroids. But getting back to it, that's where it came from, the dirted method.
Yeah.
And then now we're talking about deep substrate, plenums. They're bringing back under gravel filters.
Yeah, with the plenums. Yeah, but going back to what you said about using the dirt, I think the only reason that you can't pull it off or that I wouldn't recommend using necessarily dirt in your backyard is not that it can't be done. It's just that more than likely, if you have a yard and you have grass, you're probably using chemicals. And that's,
it's going to be contaminated.
That's what Steve is getting. But that doesn't mean you can't go out into nature where there's dirt that hasn't been touched by some type of artificial chemical and use that. Obviously, this is the one thing that I've noticed with most people that do use dirt. They lack the information of providing the information that this stuff is going to be really enriched. It's going to have high nutrients in it.
And you're going to have algae like crazy.
So I learned it the hard way because I was doing the deep substrate. I started doing the deep substrate where they recommended you did an inch of organic potting soil on the bottom with a minimum 3 inches of sand. Uh,
You
and
get
yes, it does work. It works wonders. The problem is with that setup, you're going to have to fight algae. And there's going to be that period where the tank is trying to balance itself out because you have all that excess nutrients that will. I don't care what they say. That stuff leaches into the water
it
column.
leeches.
So unless you have fast growing plants like hornwort, duckweed, a lot of these other plants that are quick to absorb a lot of these extra nutrients, you're going to get hair string algae, you're going to get blackbeard algae, you're going to get the green spot algae on your glass in excess because, again, it's
You
got to
forgot
reach
one.
this harmony where it's going to balance out. Hey, Dr. Anthony, thanks for joining us.
The the
Yes, we are.
you know when you put the sand cap on it. Como dice baboso. When you put the freaking sand cap on it, after all those nutrients, after the hot stuff, we call it hot, the nitrogen rich stuff gets consumed by all the different greens. Then because you got all that damn silica in there, you're gonna get brown algae. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it popped up on a stream. Somebody was asking, like, why do I have all this brown algae? If you have silica, high silicates in your aquarium, you're going to have brown algae. That's just how it works. It needs silica to form its structures.
But that algae won't be persistent like hair algae, green hair algae. You can easily get rid of that with the water
You
change.
can remove it, or it's easy to mitigate.
It's not as hard to get rid of as
Like
it is some of these other algae.
Right.
And like I said, and the reality is, like I said, when I did that deep substrate, it really took the tank no less than 5 or 6 months before it started to kind of balance itself out. And this is what I was getting at. This is where the patience part comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I was having to do. That's where I think that whole argument of every week you got to do a so much percent water changes. Yeah, because you have all these excess nutrients in the water column. But that's because of that. So learning from that, I've gone to the point where I've kind of modified based from taking from different things that I've tried because I did the deep substrate and it worked. That's actually the well here. Why am I pointing?
Right. While you're doing that with the dirt, what I found is I always use, if you're gonna purchase dirt, this is what because we're gonna throw solutions in here too. What's worked for me is if I'm gonna use soil, dirt in a tank, I purchase potting soil, the cheapest potting soil that they have. And it's because it's a filler dirt. It's sandy, it's a sandy loam, more or less. It's not as hot as some of your prepared planting dirts, and it doesn't have all that peat in it. And that's the easiest to transition into an aquarium. It's showing up.
Yeah. Can you hear me without an echo?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, Steve?
Yeah,
okay.
I got you.
All right. No, I just want to make sure that I was being heard. Well, this is the tank, the original tank. Toby, go to your. This guy won't let me work. Come on, get over there. Go to your bed.
Toby.
Anyways, look at him. Go back to your bed. Hurry up. Come on. Let me put him outside. Because he's not going to let me. He's going to be wanting to be on the shot. Come on. Let's go outside. Let me turn off
in
this
here.
camera.
Corey pulled up. Dr. Anthony's here.
Go.
Biz, what's good? Who else? Jeff Kane, what's going on, Jeff? We seen you, Glitch. Big Shrimping. Look like he pocket dialing up in here. Thought you was a troll. All right, you should be good now, G.
Yeah. All right. How's the sound?
Yep.
It's not echoing, right? Well, anyways,
No,
this is the very first deep substrate tank that I set up, and you can see obviously the frame itself is about an inch and a half, and so this one's almost 6 inches deep. And I did do the 1 inch of organic soil on the bottom, but
mm-hmm.
even to this day, I don't have any of the hair algae anymore. But it does grow plants. I mean, it works. It's just it takes a whole lot of time. And how you know it works is because I started out with one crypt,
Uh-huh.
and now I have three in here, and I've already pulled out four that I've put out throughout my other tanks. And these are heavy, heavy root feeders. And
Right.
when I pulled them out, the roots were just white as can be and long and thick. I had never seen anything like that. So I know this system does work. It works very well, but it takes time. This tank now has been up and running, I want to say at least 5 years now, just as it sits now,
Hey
with that
Jordan,
same dirt, that same substrate. Yes, sir.
before you leave that tank, can you
Yeah.
explain to the people how you stratified the substrate? Because I get this a lot when I'm trying to help somebody build I call it a cake. When I'm trying to teach
Okay.
them how to build a cake, and I'm teaching them that you gotta stratify it. It's gonna do it on its own naturally anyway, but you want to help it. And so
Yeah. Well, you see, and I didn't know
basically
that
making
going
sure
into doing
water
this one.
and air can flow through it.
Yeah, this one, you see, that's the thing. This one, I hear that argument, and it's supposed to kill your roots because there's the dirt is compacted, and it's supposed to be all these things.
You
But
got sand in there, right?
one, yes, it's sand, and this is pool filter sand. This is prior to
Okay.
me um, doing my own, literally doing my own substrates. But this was taking that very first information I found on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody was preaching about pool filter sand, which I still have a
Right.
bag down there, and you can see it's unopened. It's just excess stuff that I had in there. Um, so that's what this is. It's just strictly pool filter sand and potting soil at the very bottom. Now, over the
Okay.
course of time, as the fish produce waste, you can see where that waste is kind of, I don't know if the glare is going to let me, but you can
Yeah,
see where it's
the
kind of working
mold.
its way down.
Yeah,
Yeah, all that moam. You don't see
that's right.
moam on the top of the sand, uh, because, well, one, I have all these fish that'll push it through, but where you start getting a little bit of accumulation of moam is where you start getting down here into these roots, and that eventually starts working its way down. Now, the biggest contributors to moving that stuff down are these little guys right here, the Malaysian trumpet snails. These are great. I know people hate, hate, hate snails, but if you're going to be doing dirted tanks, you need to have these guys because these guys, the way they operate, they come up to the surface when the lights go off. They is usually when they come on. I just turned these lights on. That's why I still have a bunch of them up here. But during the day, they'll work their way into the gravel and the sand. So they're the
Uh-huh.
ones unintentionally, without me knowing, I've created that aeration that you're talking about. It's
Right.
because these guys are doing the work for me. It's not me,
They're
not
moving
because
the
I
soil.
knew. Yeah, not that I
Right.
knew that I was supposed to do that. And you can see them. I don't know if you can see them right now. They're kind of working
Yeah,
themselves
there's one right
into the
there.
soil, and so that, and it helps that also these guys right here, if you watch their behavior, they're sifting through the sand. So what ends up happening, any moam that's on top of here gets kind of pushed down, and then it just eventually works its way down to the roots of these plants, and these rats will use it to grow. Um, so that's what I've learned from the deep substrate. The biggest takeaway from this is you're looking at the long haul. It is going to be a
Right.
long time before you're not having to pull hair algae out of these tanks. Does it work? Yes. Does the soil lose its nutrients? Because that's one thing that I've heard. Oh, dirt only lasts a couple of years. I'm telling you, this tank has been up and running for 5 years. You tell me if it's losing its nutrients. Um,
Well, it's being you just told
this is
them.
my
The fish load and it's a
yeah,
replicating cycle.
yes, and this is my jungle val. Uh, my the one that's produced all the jungle val that you're going to see throughout
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the aquariums in here. and it's been from one. It was a couple of rhizomes that I got, and that has propagated to the point where I have it everywhere. I've even sold a bunch of it to a lady that was building a pond because this used to be all of it in here,
Mm.
and basically all this stuff that I took out of here, I sold it to this lady, and and this continues. I'm constantly. You could see in the back right there, it's shooting off runners, and it's always doing it. So there, to me, there's enough nutrients in here to
Mm-hmm.
still keep this going. And now I think, like you were saying, it's kind of self 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 sustaining because it's kind of become an ecosystem. Um,
Right. It is ecos. Yeah.
so and even though I had an internal filter that I was running off of this, you can see that sucker's off. It's not running. And I have a sponge filter that's just in there, but I can literally pull all the filters off of this and not even worry about it. I can run this filterless now because it's been up and running for so long that it'll be able to sustain itself. Uh, that's an example of deep substrate. Uh, now, as like I was getting at, what I learned from this is that having an inch of organic soil on the bottom the of the tank was probably too much, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it and it did take me that long to figure it out. So the next thing that I did was I took that idea, and this is from listening to other people that have had trials and tribulations with their organic soil. I kind of made my own mix, and this is something that
Okay.
I've always shared with people. Um, I took the sand that I was using, and it's and I the way you could say I kind of figured it out is probably like 1 part organic soil to 4 parts of whatever substrate you want to use. I happen to use sand, and this sand
Mm-hmm.
is sand that I actually get from the desert. It doesn't look like this when I get it. It has rocks. That's where I get all my rocks because it has big rocks in there like this.
Yeah. Show them your little
Uh,
sifter thing you made. It's cool.
yeah. So this is all byproducts. This is where I keep telling people that you don't necessarily, if you get pretty creative and you take a look outside where you live, there's chances are you have all the natural resources, all the hardscape, all everything that you need to be able to be able to set up a tank without spending a whole lot of money. So all this stuff was the waste, the spills from what I was doing. But you start off with a simple grate. You separate all your large sections, and then you can go finer and finer, as fine as you want, just simply by switching out whatever sifter you're using. Obviously, the smaller the hose, the finer your end product is going to be, and that's kind of what I've done here. I'm not mistaken. No, these are rocks. They're not. So what I've done is I took 1 part of potting soil to 4 parts of the sand that I had, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
you see in here. Those little black speckles are just stuff of the organic soil. Um,
Okay.
but learning and hearing, and this is coming from you, Steve. I had a bag of lava rock, kind of like this stuff
Mm-hmm.
right here. Well, and I called you on this one. I asked you. I said, "Hey, Steve, that fine powder that sits at the bottom of this bag," I
Yeah.
said, "does it hold any residual nutrients in it or minerals?" And
What
what
did
did
I
you tell
lost
me?
my mind? I was like, hell, don't. That's the fines. Fines. That's the fines. Don't get rid of the
Yeah.
fine. You
So
keep those.
I've
And that goes
incorporated
for
that
any
to
other
this
bag
mix.
of aqua soil y'all buy too. You
Yeah.
want
So
the
I
you
added
want
that
the
stuff. I added that stuff to this mixture here. And the
mm-hmm.
only other thing that I did, um, and this is again just from learning and hearing different people talk about enriched soils and what to do, is I
Mm-hmm.
took some laterite. That's why there's like a
Yeah,
brown, like a reddish tint to this. Is I took some of this stuff, some of this laterite powder, and
yeah,
sprinkled it in here. This one, it's more towards just kind of feel because I wouldn't be able to tell you how much I use. I know I just kept adding it and turning it until I saw that it was kind of distributed through the entire substrate. Now,
Gotcha.
this has helped me tremendously to cut back on algae. And here's the example. This tank has,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys can check me on this one because I just made a video about this one. And you'll see when I set this up. That's exactly the substrate that I used. And what I liked about it is that it's getting me a lot of growth on the plants, so it's obviously getting the nutrients that it needs. This sword was real tiny when I put it in here, and now it's starting to grow. As a matter of fact, I couldn't get this sword to grow. It's one of those baby runoffs that from the mother plant, and in the tank that I had it, it wasn't doing very well. And as soon as I put it in here, it started growing. There's another crypt that I pulled from that bottom tank that I put in here. There is some minimal algae that is growing in here, but it's nowhere near. Anybody that's done a dirted tank can 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 know that I'm not lying. Where hair algae is just everywhere,
You start
and
getting
I've
that
managed,
slime out.
yeah, and I've managed to avoid that just simply by reducing the amount of nutrients, um, and still using some of the some of the stuff that I have in here, and that's worked out pretty good. It seems like I finally found a substrate that is giving me all the benefits of a nutrient substrate without the excess nutrients in the water column. So that was kind of cool. But that was all trial and error, listening to people that have been doing this for a long time and learning from them, from their mistakes. When I was younger, obviously that would have never worked. I wanted to experience my own mistakes. But now that I'm getting older, I don't have time for that stuff. So I like to learn from other people's mistakes. And overall, I'd say I think I struck the right balance with that substrate. Obviously, this stuff, the only thing that you need to know about this is that I do cap that because, like I said, there is nutrients in here. And if I were to put this straight up in there, the just the movement of the fish
Yeah,
would
you get a
stir a lot of that stuff up. So So it's capped. All my tanks are capped. Now, this one over here is what eventually led me to having a lot of success as far as using the laterite, again, using clay um, as a nutrient source for plants. That's exactly what this is. This is taking not only deep substrate idea, because you can see it's pretty deep, but incorporating the plenum. And the big points that they preach about the plenum is obviously you want very slow water movement through the bottom of this. So this has
right.
a homemade underground filter system. That's what it has under there. So the
Okay.
idea is to have the water work its way down through here and move very slowly to the bottom to create a obnoxious filtration in there. But what I liked was the using the kitty litter as a
Mhm.
clay-based substrate and adding the laterite, and it's helped me grow some plants too. So I mean that's what I've been on this one. I do have to fight a little bit of hair algae. I don't know if you can see it. Uh, let me. I should probably turn on the lights for this. But I do have a little bit, but it's nowhere near the amount of hair algae you get when you do the regular traditional deep substrate. So
Mhm.
so learning from this is where eventually I got to this, and this is working great. This one doesn't have an under gravel filter. This has an internal sump that I need to clean out because the grates are full of leaves and stuff. But that's what this is running. But what I like about it is I'm not dealing with a big problem of excess nutrients. It's kind of
Gotcha.
struck its own balance. And then the one that I always tell people when they start arguing, you'll never be able to grow stuff with without without any with an inert substrate. I like to show this tank. This tank right here. This is my little jungle tank,
Mhm.
and this is literally nothing but pool filter sand and gravel. That's all that's in here. That's all that started out in here. Obviously, I have now this is my pleco tank. And if anybody
Mm-hmm.
that's had plecos and if you're breeding plecos,
You got a
they're a
fish
little
load.
waste machine.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got a fish load.
And in here, it's one of my best jungle val producing tanks. I mean, this serves several purposes for me. Not only am I using it as a pleco breeding tank, but I also can double up on it and make money off of the jungle val that's growing in here. And it's
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff that's got in here is that moam that's kind of well, there's a little bit of this one because there's no again no plenum on this one. It's just the substrate. You do get some of that diatomaceous algae in here,
Mm-hmm.
um, but a lot of it gets mitigated because if you can see real close, I had tons. I mean, literally tons
Yeah,
of
you got MTS in there, like, oh man.
yeah, Malaysian trumpet snails. So these
Yeah.
guys are constantly going. Look, I don't know if you guys can pick it up, but there's a bunch of babies on the glass right now.
Yeah, I see them all
I
over
mean,
the
this,
glass.
yeah, these, this. If you ever want to get creeped out in my house, come in here at night when all the lights are out, and you come and look at this glass. All of this glass right here is nothing but snails, and they're all Malaysian trumpet snails. Um, I actually got these guys in here because I thought they were going to help me control that, but I don't
Nope.
know. I see more snails and more snails every day, and these guys are just eating the fish food.
Well,
But
that's what I wanted to talk about. Because you're talking about this one here. It's inert,
y-
but
yep,
it's real. It's not
not
because
anymore. It's not inert
nutrient.
anymore.
See,
Yep,
and that's the thing is, I think a lot of people get discouraged because you can grow plants in sand in an inert substrate. It's just gonna take time, and I think people get impatient and they go getting root tabs and ferts and they overdose it, and those plants aren't uptaking those nutrients, and then you get the hair algae like you was showing.
yep,
But it takes
yeah. But
time.
again,
All
yes,
that stuff's
and
breaking down.
that is the key. The key word there is time, patience, patience. Uh, Obviously, when I first started with this tank, it did not look like it is now full of plants in the back. Um, I had clumps that I had taken from over here and just kind of put them here and here and here. But I don't know how many times I've already pulled plants from here and sold them and all that. But yeah,
Right.
it sends up runners everywhere. If I let this go, we would not be able to see in this tank. That's how heavy it grows with jungle val in there. Now the other one is the bare bottom or
Mm-hmm.
so-called bare bottom, and that would be this right here. And on this one, I my substrate just happens to be lava rock. Lava
Yeah,
rock,
that's not even bare
extra.
bottom. G.
Yeah, well, this is it, I can't leave stuff alone. You know me. So
It's
I
pseudo bare bottom.
yeah, pseudo bare bottom. But if you look in there, there's nothing. There's no sand or nothing in there. What I ended up doing because it's if you're going to have more than one tank, it's always handy to have extra cycled media. So that's why I decided to go with lava rock in here. This is basically a guppy tank that I'm it's a breeding tank. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a breeding tank, and I didn't want to use the substrate down here because my idea was I'm going to use it. I'm going to need to be able to do maintenance on this and clean up all the mold and all that stuff. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's what originally what it started with. But then I said, you know what? I got all that extra real estate down there. Why don't I take advantage of it? And I've got media. I got the little bio balls that are in there. And I do this because within my community, sometimes it never fails that you get a new hobbyist that is panicking because they don't have a cycle in their tank. And this is real easy for me to collect some lava rock, put it in a Ziploc bag, and take it to them and say, "Hey, put this in your tank, and it'll help you cycle your tank." So that's one of
Yep.
the real reasons why I have it. And then over here, maybe I should do something about this now. But I had also the little ceramic, but it's starting to grow. I guess those merino balls are transferring some of that. I know it's a type of algae, so they're starting to get. I have fuzzy ceramic
Yeah, it's cladophora.
media.
That's the type of algae it is. It's cladophora.
Yeah, but that's basically, I wanted to share that I mean, there's the different ways you can have substrate, quote unquote, and but it's all depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So
Hey, I
that
think
was
we got
that
some
was that.
questions, Jorge. I'm gonna put you
All
back
right.
up. Jeff Kane says, "Where do you get your laterite?"
The laterite that I had to buy.
You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry.
Gotcha.
All right. But I don't know what I was saying is the only thing that I have access to is a PetSmart here, and it seems like it's the PetSmart where they send all the unsold items from other areas, and so we don't have a very good selection. Unfortunately, I had to resort to online to be able to buy the laterite, and it's not that expensive. I think that bag there must have been somewhere in the vicinity of $20, and the thing with laterite that you need to know, it goes a long ways. It's like powdered sugar.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever had powdered sugar, it doesn't take a whole lot to spread cover a surface, and that's kind of what that laterite is. So a little bit
Well,
of that goes a long ways.
I want to talk about that granite,
Okay.
the decomposed granite,
Yes.
and I've been using that for a long time. And when I lived on the East Coast, it was hard to find. I moved back down here; they got it right at Home Depot. But that decomposed granite is it's like an off-brand. I use it the same way you use the laterite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
use
can
it
get that at
the
Home
exact
Depot.
same way.
You can
Yeah,
go to any of the big hardware stores, and what it's really used for is when you put pavers down.
it's for pavers. Yeah,
It's what holds the pavers in place. So that's what decomposed granite is. And I didn't know, I wasn't privy to that until I started talking to you.
I like
And
to use it. Um,
is it
I use it like a mat, right?
okay? Uh huh.
So like when I'm escaping with big rocks or big pieces of wood, I'll use that as a mat because so like if you got diggers, cichlids, loaches, catfish, you put mats around your stuff to make that subs to where they can't mess with it. And that's one of the tricks I use to get those convicts in there breeding like that, but it's jungled out. Like they just got tired. They got tired of trying. The plants want. And it's the same thing with your mix, but we was talking about the stratification. So like building the cake.
Okay.
And I think Drew had hit me up about it because he was showing the kids. Y'all go check out his video. They did the put the substrate up, and then you showed the lava rock. I like to use that lava rock to make kind of like a pseudo plenum, and I like to
Yeah.
use a base layer of some fine, then put the lava rock on top of it because I don't want the lava rock directly touching the glass, and then I build up and around
Mm-hmm.
that lava rock, and it kind of serves the same purpose as the plenum, and even more so when it gets into contact with your organics, you're creating bio, and you're getting it. It kind of boosts that anoxic filtration that you was talking about when you're getting that water to flow through
Yeah.
as it goes through and it's collecting nutrients, so on and so forth, oxygenating the gravel bed. So I like to use the lava rock.
Oh, yeah. And I've done that too, where instead of using the plenum plates, like an
Yeah.
under gravel filter, the one in this one behind me, I actually had to make uh, the well, I didn't have to. I decided to do it because it was one, a busy project, two, helped me create content for my channel. That's I'm
Mm-hmm.
being totally honest.
You was tinkering, bro. Just
Yeah,
say it.
and so I use PVC pipes and see, give me a second.
But I say, don't you got one? I'm trying to see if I got you a link, Jeff.
So all I did was because I had some extra PVC pipe and I'm setting up a 55 gallon. This is all it is. This is what the under gravel filter is. The only difference is I drilled out these sections in here
Mm-hmm.
with small holes to allow the water to come in here. But this is your lift tube. And when you're talking about plenums, what you don't want is a lot of water movement. So the shorter the lift tube, the less pool it's going to have in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the slower the water is going to move. Technically, you don't even need to run an air pump. As long as you have the lift tube, you don't even have to run air through the system because naturally the water is going to move through there. You just want to have very slow moving water to the bottom of the plenum. And this is, according to Dr. Novak, to be able to have success. I'm not going to say yes or no because, again, I don't have doctor in front of my name. So I'm using what I've learned from him.
Mm-hmm.
Has it worked? Yes. As a matter of fact, the goldfish tank that's set up right behind me, that's running a straight plenum. I've got 3 tanks.
You got a pump in there?
That one, yes. That was the very first one. It's running a very slow. I don't even know if you can see the water moving down there. But it's,
you know
that
what
was,
I think it is? I think people don't understand why it works, so they can't understand how it works. You know what I'm saying? And
well, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not. If you ask me to break it down chemically, what it's doing, or any of that stuff, I just know I've followed his instructions. I've done it the way he said to do it, and I've had success with it. That's good enough for me as far as understanding what a plenum, how it works. I mean, I understand the general gist of what he's saying, but I don't understand it at a scientific level to be able to say, oh yeah, this is the reason why. It's because it's doing this and there's this reaction and these irons are pulling these on these ions. Now, I'm not at that level. But yeah, and that's for the laterite, I guess. Like I said, I had to go online and
you have a link,
the Big A store, and buy it there. I could come up with a link.
Okay.
I could come up with a link.
Yeah, Jeff was asking for that link.
Let me look in here real quick.
Vibes just pulled up. I saw Renee pulled up. What's up, Renee? Vibes say he lurking, eating a chili cheese dog, drinking a Coke. Don't sound bad.
No, actually, it doesn't.
Bro, you eat Costco hot dogs?
No, I don't eat hot dogs.
I saw something. They put a weenie in a tamale.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that and I almost lost my mind. There's just I'm all for change.
He said, pero un weenie.
Except when it comes to my cultural food.
Dije lo que el weenie es carne. Eso no es not a weenie in a tamale.
Yeah, like I said, I'm hypocritical. I'm all for change until it comes to my cultural food. Then I'm nope.
That's not hypocritical. Well,
yeah, it is.
Some stuff you just don't mess with.
Well, it's not necessarily true, but a tamale and weenies, that's any self-respecting person that eats tamales is going to tell you.
You don't put weenies in tamale.
And not only no, but hell no.
What? They got weenies and tamales at Buc-ee's? No, I ain't see it at Buc-ee's. I saw it on Instagram. It was like the homeboy was doing the meme, and he went to go eat the tamale, and then he was like, a weenie, pero no carne? And she was like, mijo, weenie is carne. No, weenie, no. A weenie, that's not carne.
But that was that. Yeah, that was more of a what do you call it?
A parody.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, you know, they making fun of how on the internet people just be slapping all kind of shit together and don't even know, like.
Let's see if this will get you to
the authentic. I think you're trying to find that link.
I think. Well, this is a link to laterite. I don't have Amazon store. If that's what you guys are asking, I'm like you
Now,
guys.
the Brightwell stuff,
Yeah.
I used Brightwell. Here, let me show. It's in that. The closest one is in this little tank. Let me figure out how to do this. Hey, how do you flip the camera?
You got to go to your settings. Go to the settings, and then I think on yours is going to say camera. Open that up, and then you got to use the back-facing camera.
Hold on.
A bunch of rookies.
Yeah, for real.
We learn on the fly.
On the fly.
Yeah, but as far as substrates is concerned, you can grow plants. I'm at the point now where I've tried all these different things. Again, if you're just trying to grow basic plants because you want it to look aesthetically pleasing and have some of the benefits of having plants in your tank, you can use whatever you want, whatever is accessible to you.
Okay, you can.
Now, if you're looking at competing, then that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different ballgame. Hey, MC, I'm interested in substrates. What's the simplest? The simplest is going to be just gravel.
Hey George, throw this tank on.
Oh yeah.
So I can show
Sorry.
you well.
Sorry. Let me make it. Let me make you solo.
So this is Brightwell.
Turn your phone so that that's Brightwell. Turn your phone sideways so it gets bigger. The image. There you go.
So this is the Brightwell substrate, and it works good. We lost power during that winter storm while I was gone. So all the red stuff is shit the bed.
Now, Brightwell does not sponsor me at all. It's just
me neither.
That just happens to be the laterite that I was able to get at the time, but you can use as far as if you're trying to get laterite, you can literally go get the little terracotta pots, but this is just too much work for me. I did it because it's convenience, and grade it down to a powder, and it's laterite. Other way you can do it is if you get that terracotta potting clay, you can roll little tiny balls, well, whatever size, like the size of a marble or smaller, and that'll also work as laterite, as iron. It's an iron source. Laterite, really, what it is an iron source. And
the decomposed granite in it.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah,
it's a little dark.
I make the different blends, so you can see it goes into the canopy of the stand. Let me get on this side so you can really see. And you can see it's just stratified.
Yeah.
All in there. And this one don't got no filter on it. But I told you my timer fell while I was gone. And I just said the hell with it. I want to see what happens. So I got nutrients out the ass in here. But all the, what are these? Feeder guppies, the endless. They're all doing good. Convicts doing good. And it's loaded with algae. Look at this shit.
Immediately I see the convict, and the first thing that pops into my mind is Jaws theme. I
mean, they don't even like dive bombing and like trying to get cool or something. I don't know what's up with that. But that's that one. Let me get back over here to y'all.
Yeah, Jeff, red clay, that'll work too. Because that's all it is you're trying to provide an iron source. And that's what the laterite is. And what I was going to say, the way Dr. Novak talks about the reason you're using the clay substrate and the laterite is because I know one of them is like negatively charged and the other one's positively charged, I guess. And it attracts, what is it? Yeah, they're negatively charged, and it attracts, I think, the positives out of the nitrites. So you never even get nitrates. And that's what, again, I'm not a scientist, and I probably sound like dumbass because I'm not getting the terms right, but that's the general principle behind it. It's supposed to create an ionic bond that helps you pull those ions from uh, nitrites and technically bypassing the nitrate uh, topic of it. Yeah, it's Tommy. Yes, it is talking about plenums and anoxic filtration. And well, not I wouldn't say talking about it because I'm not the subject matter on that expert on that, but I do use it, and that's what I was trying to explain to Jeff. The reason why the use of iron, for me, it's also a dual purpose because a lot of the plants, especially if you're running red plants, they can benefit from having an iron source in the tank.
Yeah, I overheard you. I was listening to you.
No, I know you
And
were.
this is what I'm always bringing up. Anytime we start talking about black water, we start talking about tannins, we start talking about that stuff. And I'm always talking about the ionic exchange in water and how black water affects the ionic exchange. It affects nutrient uptake levels in plants. And all of this stuff, believe it, it's all related. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, like, once you start understanding the principles, you understand that you can't have one without the other, so on and so forth. And if anything, I think that's kind of where some of the arguing come from is these cats understand these processes, but they don't know how to explain them to other people in a relatable manner. So, oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Well, I think
Because all
I
that
think
stuff sounds intimidating, you know?
well, it's not even that. I think at the root of their disagreement is that one pretty much. I guess if I'm understanding it is that you don't necessarily need oxygen down by the roots, where the other one is saying you benefit from having oxygen down by the roots. That's the root of the big problem, the big disagreement, because one one of them will argue that that'll help grow plants and the roots and all this stuff, and the other one is saying no
Well,
because you're
here's
not
what I
getting any.
can, I like based on my rudimentary understanding of it, is with the anoxic filtration, right?
Yeah.
All you're doing, you're being nature. So you're giving these processes a chance to fully replicate their cycle. You're giving all those different denitrifying bacteria a chance to thrive. Therefore, they're consuming these nutrients on a on a molecular level. They're not so free available in the water column. Then simple life forms like algae, they can't do anything with them. However, the plants, on the other hand, those nutrients are free available in the substrate and they can be uptaken at the roots. Yeah, so
There you go, Steve. That's what you've always said that people
it's the
just got to
truth
throw.
though. Like, you can't throw money at everything. Does it help? It depends. But in most cases, no. What the money does is it's like a binky, it's like a pacifier because it'll shut you up and make you sit down and leave it the fuck alone, like what you're supposed to anyway. And then you're good. And then people be like, oh, no, it's because I poured this in there. No, it's because you left it alone.
Yeah.
I can't, like, so let's talk about water changes in correlation to substrate.
Okay.
Cherry picking information is why you got this whole class of people coming up because of social media talking about doing all these damn water changes coming from aquascaping. The water changes mitigate the excess nutrients so you don't have an algae bloom. That's it. And I'm not saying that water changes are bad. I'm talking about this argument of the prevalence of people doing all these water changes. Now, the adverse effect that I see is inexperienced hobbyists and even sometimes experienced hobbyists that'll second guess themselves and they don't know why their tank keeps clouding up or they don't know why they keep getting an ammonia bloom or so on and so forth. And then the first thing I'll say is, you doing water changes? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm doing, 5% once a day, or I'm doing 30% every other day, so on and so forth. And I'm like, well, that's your problem right there. You not that tank ain't cycled. Symptoms like certain things cause certain things, right? If your water's cloudy, you know why it's cloudy. And then like your cognitive dissonance say, no, that ain't it, Steve. This tank been up for like 8 months. That ain't it. And I'm like, yeah, you probably been changing the water on it like an idiot for 8 months too. It ain't never cycled. Leave it alone. Let it cycle. And people will do that. They'll stop doing the water changes on it. And man, you was right. It ain't about being right. It's about understanding that changing the water literally means that changing it. And it's understanding the system. Me and you talked about it. Like I'm gonna confess. I really don't do a whole lot of water changes. I add rain. If I do a big clean, and I'm like, I got too much algae. I feel lazy. I don't want to die off. Okay, I'll do a little water change and then top off with some rain. That's it.
Well,
It's maintenance at best.
for me, water changes, and you know what? It's not
You
for
live in
not
a
like.
hot desert
It's,
though, bruh. You
yeah.
gotta do them.
Well, not right now. When in the summer, yes, because I've already experienced the loss of fish for sticking to my regular schedule.
Right.
Uh, but but learning from that, yes, in the summer. But the problem for me in the summer is cooling down the water because sometimes the water's hotter than what that's already in the tanks.
Right.
Almost all the time. So, but what I was getting at, my indicator to me, even though I do have a test kit, uh, and this is not a disclaimer in having one. I think if you're starting in the hobby, it's a requirement to have a test kit because
Yeah, you
that's
need
gonna
test kit.
you need to have that. But like any experienced hobbyist is going to tell you, the more you learn your fish, the less and less you rely on that test kit because you're looking for symptoms, you're
Right.
looking for behaviors, you're looking,
Their eyes. Look at their gills.
yeah, you're
Right.
it's funny, but one of the things that I first do is I touch my tanks. I touch the surfaces of the glass. I'm trying to find out right off the bat, are they where they're supposed to be at? That's how I gauge. Um, and it's funny because it's gotten to the point now where I can tell you, oh yeah, this tank's probably running about 76. This one's probably running closer to 80. But
Right.
but again, it's me spending a lot of time in here, and not necessarily tinkering with anything, just observing. The reason my fish room is set up exactly the way it is, and I have this pivoting chair, is because I like to sit here and look, and then I'll move to this one and look, and then and I do that throughout the entire. I mean, my wife knows that when I get from work and it's late at night and she doesn't see me in the house, she'll just come in here and, what are you doing? I said, I'm just staring at the tanks. And I like it because, one, I find it fascinating, the behavior of the fish and how they, because most of mine are all community tanks for the most part. So I like to see that social interaction that the fish have in the hierarchies that are developed and the behaviors, and you can kind of tell when you walk in whether your fish are getting ready to breed based on what you see in the tank and who's being cornered or who isn't, or
Mhm.
the colors will, it's another indicator that you're going, oh, okay, these guys are getting ready to breed. So it's those observations that with time you start learning. When you see that some of the things are off, that's when I would go and no, I don't even check the water.
Look,
I just
I
do a
got.
water
I just
change.
had an epiphany while you was talking, man. For real. Observing your tanks. We said this on a few shows in the past of how many people actually just get into some deep couch sitting, right? And just really get in there,
Yeah.
get in them tanks, right? And what I'm realizing is it's personal. You got some people like me and you, we salty, we veterans, we don't give a damn. Like we conquistadors. I'm a pirate. I don't care about shit. Then you got other people. They not like us, man. They worried about what people gonna say that they did or didn't do, and it's that anxiety, right? Oh,
Yeah.
now I got to do these water changes. Oh, I got to do this because not if, but when I ask for help. I want to be able to make sure that I can rattle off all this stuff. And I poured some sea chem in it, and I did this, and I put the dechlorinator in there, and I hit it with some prime. I got to be able to rattle off all this stuff. But I really don't know. And you know how hard it is to just say you don't know how to do something these days. We live
Well,
in a world of instant gratification. It's different.
you know what? It used to be when I was younger. Now that I'm getting older,
Yeah, I don't care.
it,
I
it,
never did really.
it really. I don't know. I have no problem telling you I don't know. I'll be the first one to tell you I don't know.
Well,
But
that's why I rock with you.
by me saying I don't know doesn't necessarily mean that I don't know where to find the answer.
Right.
But
You just
you
don't know
know,
right now.
yeah, I just right now I hadn't had to deal with that, so I don't know. But if you ask me something that I've dealt with in the past, yeah, I that's already stored in the memory bank. But it's funny because I correlate to as you get older, your hard drive starts getting fuller,
Yeah.
and you have less room to kind of try to save valuable information. So a lot of stuff, if I don't feel is important to me, I just
You
kind
just
of
let
hear
it
it
go.
and it let it go way back in the files. And but I know enough of it to go, yeah, I remember somebody mentioning this. This is where I can go find it. But stuff that I need off the top of my head, like to be able to give information, stuff like that. Yeah, that stuff I like to keep where I can be able to recall it on an instant and be
Well,
able to.
that's what I'm just noticing a lot. Like the fun is going out of the hobby, and people, I don't know how to say it. I mean, I try to be eloquent, I try to be articulate when I'm not using profanity, but you got to stop creating your own problems. It's like
Well,
people go
okay.
create problems and then they go spend some money on a solution for it and get eviscerated on the.
Here's where that whole thing state your purpose. Um, are you a hobbyist or are you a content creator that happens to be in the hobby? Because there's two big differences.
Mm-hmm.
As a hobbyist, you could care less what your presence is that's on social media. You're doing your thing and you're sharing your experiences.
Yes.
You're a hobbyist. You're sharing the success you had with trying to breed a difficult fish, but that's all. That's all you're really concerned about doing. Are you a content creator that happens to be a hobbyist? Then you have to find reasons to be able to create content, and that's where the difference falls in. And I don't knock anybody for doing that. That's fine as long as you state your purpose and that's what it is. That's what it is,
That's what
and
it
that's
is.
and that's why you have people that are always having all these dramatic problems in their fish room. Well, a lot of it is because you need to be able to produce content for your channel, and it's sometimes I'll look at it and go, yeah, you purposely did that because that's an easy workaround. That's
But
not something that should have gone. That shouldn't created that kind of problems that you have.
it goes back to what I said a while ago about the spec sheets, about specifications, about parameters, setting the standard. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So when you state your purpose, like that's it. I mean, if you're not competing, if you ain't got no money on the line,
Well, but okay, that's not necessarily true because for some people, this is a way to make money and get out of whatever current situation there is, and that's fine.
that's that's what I'm
I,
saying. State your purpose in that.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's
But what I'm talking about is you got people, the internet's doing this to where these young cats is coming up and they got some really awesome tanks. They hungry for it. They really want to like it. But the next thing you know, it'd be like this. I'm gonna give you an analogy of this. It'd be like if I'm sitting up here trying to coach Pop Warner football and these little dude, they helmet bigger than them. You know what I'm saying? But I
yeah,
got these kids trying to run NFL plays and shit, and I'm over here getting mad at them because they can't do that.
yeah.
So you got these cats sitting up here talking about doing EI dosing, running dosing pumps with CO2, got they lights on the timer. They done went and got a fan. They running chillers and shit. I seen somebody talking about with the residual heat from the pump in the motor, heat the water up too much and kill some green neon tetras, just crazy shit. And I'm like, crawl for you walk, you know. And it's okay to not know stuff. And if that stuff is cool, it's cool. But like understand it, learn. You know what I'm saying? It's not set in stone. Somebody said there needs to be like take the yum out of the yuck, something like that.
Yeah, that was Jeff.
Uh, that's it. Basically, like in a nutshell, that's it. You know, and that's what I'm seeing more and more prevalent is the fish killing, right? And fish die because fish die. That's one thing, and they like to jump too.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
and that's the whole thing that I
but
don't
I'm
see.
talking about killing, like murder. It's a difference between some fish dying because it's a fish, and then just like negligence.
Yeah,
You
neglect.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And it's the social media drama of it. Like I gotta have some drama in the fish room. Hey y'all, look, I got 86 dead fish because, and then you go back and look at the videos. I deep dive, and I be like the FBI, and I'm like, oh well, their fish didn't die. You killed them, and yeah, I mean it goes back to the stating the purpose. There it is. There needs to be a little more. Don't yuck my yum in the hobby. There are. That's it. Like there's no rules.
yeah.
I mean, I just showed y'all a video when I was in the DR. You want to talk about non-conventional? You want to talk about non-conventional?
Yeah.
And that young man is breeding some fine specimens of the betas. Really, the goldfish is what
But
floored me.
it's not that it's unconventional. It's just using the basic knowledge,
There you
and again. His purpose is to reproduce fish, to
go.
breed fish.
Exactly.
So it's fine to understand that you're not going to see a manicured ponds because that's not the goal.
That's
The
not what
end
they
goal.
need to make babies.
Hmm.
You got to give them what they need. And then once they have what they need, you make it as pretty as you can, while still giving them everything they need. And that was always my understanding of it. That's why this mud puddle I got sitting over here is 55. I think it's amazing. I
Well,
just stare at it.
you
There's
you
so much
look
life in
you
them.
look at somebody like Javier, and
Yeah,
then you look at somebody like Dexter, and but again, they're doing it because they're trying to reproduce large volumes of fish. So that's
right.
But what I also find it fascinating is this how depending on what side of the country is how much marketing there's involved with products
Mm-hmm.
uh, because a lot of people still hesitate to understand that you can run your aquariums without any filters.
That's
You
right.
don't need filters.
I'm doing it now.
You don't need air pumps running. You don't need any of that stuff. Uh, but it's so ingrained here stateside that if you don't have that, your fish are going to die. And I love going to other countries and watching how they're doing the hobby. You see styrofoam ice chests filled with just
Yep.
water and a couple of floating plants. There you
Call
go.
it a day.
I've seen it where they've taken the inside liners of a refrigerator because they don't have access to the coffin boats that they have in Florida, and they're
Mm-hmm.
using the inside liners of a refrigerator to breed fish. Anything
Yep.
that'll hold water, for that matter, buckets,
That's it.
totes.
I've seen them take feed sacks, the plastic feed sacks, and put it in that frame with them boards,
Yeah,
and that's a pond.
yeah. Or
It's
just
just got
simply
to hold water.
taking tarps
Mm-hmm.
and using it as a liner inside of a wooden structure and
That's
use
it.
it as a pond. So this whole idea that and you look at this stuff and they have some of the most beautiful fish you'll see out there. They look healthy, vibrant. That's because one, they're growing outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having access to this abundance of natural foods that are working their way into the ponds
And
and
the
the
sun.
sun and the
The
sun.
sun.
And you have algae. You have tons of algae, not hair algae necessarily, but all the surfaces of those containers are green. So that's
Well,
life.
let's
It's all
dispel
micro
this.
life.
The whole thing with algae, right?
Yeah.
So the consensus is algae's bad. No, it's not.
It's aesthetically
It's
unpleasing.
balance, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about let's like I'll run the whole scenario. It's balance. And when something's out of balance, you're gonna have there's a cause and effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So let's talk about like on a large scale, right?
Hmm.
Farmers, runoff, agricultural, etc. So now you got all these free available nutrients, NPK, the big three, in the water column. It gets consumed by the algae. The algae replicate because they have this excess amount of nutrients. Then, once those nutrients are depleted, the algae dies. When the algae dies, through its decomposition, it is taking up oxygen and it is converting that oxygen into noxious chemicals, not so good stuff. So basically, all the stuff that messes up your tank. And then you get a red tie, which is a different type of microorganism. And then that creates the toxin, which kills the fish. And then it goes away. So when we come into an enclosed system like an aquarium, we're basically doing that because we're using water from whatever source, which already has its nutrient load. We got our substrate, which is what we just discussed here in depth. Then you got your fish load. You're putting fish food in it, plus all the chemicals. And if you're trying to grow plants, you know you got to go spend some money on stuff to mix up your potion.
Yeah.
That's not balanced. So then when you talk about running a plenum, when you talk about running deep substrate, anoxic filtration, BCB, stuff like that, you're giving those processes that need a chance to replicate themselves, you're giving them the ability to do that. It's not like this profound thing. You're just putting extra steps in to mitigate something that was already supposed to be there. And I think that that's how, algae got this bad stigma is because people don't understand that too much algae means it's out of balance. And it's something that it's not something you need to add. It's something you need to take away.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that needs to be taken away is interaction. You'd be amazed what you can do to a tank by just turning it off, turning the lights off, and leaving it alone.
Yep. Yeah. That's. I mean, all that does play a big factor. How long your lights are on to determine
I
how you.
mean, that's just one simple one.
Yeah.
Turn on, black it out, or stop feeding. Stop changing
That's
the water.
usually as a hobbyist, that's the one that usually gets people is overfeeding. Is overfeeding. Hey, bro. I hate to do this, but it's getting
Yep.
close for me to go to work.
Yep, I
So
already see it. I was thinking the same.
so we'll wrap it up here. I'm sure this is something we can
It's gonna
continue
come
on.
back up. We not done. You want to do a part two? We want to agree to do a part two right now, or we do something else?
We'll see. I mean, uh,
Tell
I,
us in the comments
yeah. I
what
mean,
y'all want.
as far as substrates, I think we pretty much covered the basics of it. Now we're getting into dealing with some of the consequences of of the decisions that we make and how to deal with them. So
Well, yeah, we still got to talk about anaerobic bacteria, H2S pockets. There's a lot of stuff.
you see, but everybody says that those pockets will kill your fish, and I have them on some of my tanks, and I see them go
That's
off.
what I was just finna ask you because when you told me you did that first dirty tank you did when you had the nutrient bloom, I wanted to know as a result of that because you got hot decomposition going on in there, and
Yeah,
then you got like a 2-inch sand cap, so you got a compost bin in your tank. Dead
yeah,
at
but I haven't.
you
I
had
see
no
that we're.
H2S gas.
I've seen fish swimming right around the bubbles, and nothing's happened.
Hmm.
So I know that was that was one of the biggest things that they criticized about the big deep substrate kind of tanks, that it's going to kill your fish. I haven't.
Only if you don't stratify it. You got to stratify it, and it
I
just
guess.
it just has to have those gradients so the water can move through. And I think that's probably why you haven't had no fish kills. Because when I did the Pantanal in the 55, I did a Pantanal simulation, and I let some of them get anaerobic. I made anaerobic pockets in there on purpose, and it would be like a Corridoro pygmaeus or a Corridoro, like the Hasbrosus. That's what I had in there, the Hasbrosus and the pygmaeus. And them little bastards that hit one of them gas pockets. And I would go in there, bro, and I'd be like, what the hell? Because I'd have like 2 or 3 HY511s belly up, a Pristella gone. You know, it'd just be little bitty, like a small amount, like 2, 3 of them. But I'm like 2, 3 fish down at once. That's too many for me. Yeah, and that's what it was. They was hitting them damn gas pockets.
Yeah, but I guess I was just very fortunate, but that was never my case. Anyways, I got to jump off of here, dude.
Alrighty. A lot of people said they want to keep going.
You want to stay on? I'm the only one that needs to go.
No, for a part 2.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, y'all have a good weekend, man. It's been dope.
Thank you guys for. This is the most people we've managed to be able to finish this stream with, huh? They're starting to stick with us a little bit longer.
We putting down some serious knowledge over here.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, because there's much better things to be doing on a Saturday, especially playoff Sunday. Saturday. So
I appreciate y'all.
Thank you guys.
All right.